Okay, Dave, are we ready? Okay. My name's Anthony Tabe. We're going to be Vice Mayor of Pinole. We're going to be calling to order the Wastewater Subcommittee for today, April 16th, 2025. We're going to first start with agenda item 1, our call to order and Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll call to order and then we'll get to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I think since the time our last meeting was almost a year ago, April 24, I think we'll just do a round of introductions since we have some new faces. We'll start with Heba, if you could, just for the record, name and title.
Heba Al-Gindi, City of Pinole Public Works Director.
Josh Binder, Plant Manager, City of Pinole.
Jeff Brown, City of Hercules, Interim Public Works Director.
Good evening. Duly Batrai, Council Member, City of Hercules.
Hey, good evening. I'm Devin Murphy, a City of Pinole Council Member.
Okay, Anthony Tabe, Vice Mayor of Pinole. And for the record, Councilmember Grimsley, Tiffany Grimsley, is not in attendance, but I think there's an anticipation she'll be joining us a little later. Now that we got through the call to order and attendance and roll call, we'll go through item 3, approval of the minutes from April 24, 2024 meeting. So if I could get a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So that got us through item 3, approval of the minutes. I do think we need to ask for any public comment. I'm not sure if there's any public comment on this item. Seeing none.
None.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move forward with citizens to be heard for items not on the agenda. Again, doesn't seem there's anybody in the chamber to...
And I haven't received any emails.
Online, okay. So that's item 4. We'll go ahead and close item 4 and then get to item 5, our water pollution control plant operations report. And we'll turn that over to Josh Binder for that.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to run through the operations report. Let's go to the next slide. The topics for the operations report will include the monthly flow data, monthly performance indicators, and project updates. Let's start with the monthly flow data, and I'm just going to go over the totals for each city. So for the month of January 2025, for Hercules, the total flow was 48 million gallons, or 52% of the overall flow. For Pinole, it was 43.94 million gallons, or 48% of the overall flow. For February, the total flow for Hercules was 55.6 million, or 43%, and the total for Pinole was 69.99 million, or 57%. And for March, the total for Hercules was 45.32 million, or 48%, and the total for Pinole was 48.92 million gallons, or 52%. And I'll just say regarding these numbers, since these were wet weather months, sometimes there's fluctuations in flow based on rain events, so that's why some of the totals are higher than in dry weather months. But I can answer any questions if anyone has questions on any of the monthly flow data.
So we'll take it to council. Is there any questions on flow?
Yeah, well, out of curiosity, I understand that because of the weather, February, can you elaborate on looks like, the Hercules versus Pinole. Hercules has 52 around, and then 48 type of thing, and then the next month, 43% Hercules and 57% Pinole. What makes that Pinole to go higher that month?
Right.
Can you?
So for Pinole and Hercules, they're higher in February because that was a really wet month for rain. And Pinole in particular has a lot of inflow and infiltration, just rainwater getting into the sewer collection system and making its way to the treatment plant.
And can you kind of give us a little bit about the metering system on how we measure those flows? And just kind of give us a little bit of background as to where that is. I mean, it's been a while since we've met, and I think we have one new member. Just kind
Right.
of give us a little bit of background on that.
Right, so both collection systems come in separately to the treatment plant and then join up. So prior to them joining up into one combined pipe, each city has their own flow meter, so that flow is recorded separately, and then the combined flow joins up and goes through the treatment plant.
Okay. And then those two flows come in, and then the discharge
It's
is also
combined.
being monitored. Has there been an analysis between what's coming in and what's going out? Are those two the same, or is there a difference?
Yeah, those numbers are always very close because what goes in has to come out. I mean, there's minor decreases because you're removing the solids portion that's within the waste stream. So you're going to have less going out just because of what you've removed from the waste stream as it's gone through the treatment plant.
Right. Okay. And then with those two, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how often are those two meters calibrated?
They're usually calibrated on a quarterly basis. So we have an instrument technician come out and calibrate those flow meters.
Right. Has there been any differences between those 2 meters? Like, how far would they drift, I guess, is what's the margin of error?
They're usually supposed to be calibrated. I believe it's plus or minus 5%.
Okay. Can that 5% contribute to a higher number?
It can if the calibration is on the higher range, yes.
Okay. Okay. So there is some room there for error.
There's some room for error, and I'll get back to you with the exact number. I was
Okay.
just off the top of my head.
I think it's how that's calculated into these calcs might, and I'm not sure if that error is already accounted for, if it's averaged across both meters, or, I mean, I've seen it done a couple ways, just depending on how the agreements are written, but there is, these two numbers we do know there's water coming into our system, that's for sure. And I think a sewer master plan was also initiated a while back that kind of suggested the same thing. I don't know if that plan ever I don't think it came back to this board, right?
No, it went to Pinole City Council because it was a Pinole master plan.
Right. I think it's worth saying that we probably should have, what that plan looks like, because I know that we had some sewer work done off of Pinion, and that was supposed to correct some of that. But to what degree, it's really how are we getting to fixing a lot of that I&I that we has coming in. But I just it was a great question. I just kind of wanted to add a little bit more to that. But please go ahead.
No, thank you. I really appreciate for giving this background and bringing us to the speed, especially being a new person here. That really helps. Thank you for the clarification again from this.
You're welcome.
Great. Councilmember Murphy?
I don't have any questions, but I did want to ask the chair, did you, the sewer master plan presentation, maybe we should consider that the next meeting, or is that a?
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to, just based on our agenda, just lost it. Hold on, getting there. Have a section in maybe when we get into reports, start to figure a little bit more about how we want this body to operate. I know that there's a lot of, we mentioned COVID, I think one of our citizens, and what those reports look like when we have COVID numbers going up and down, and I know that's tested through the waste stream. Also, one of the other things was concern about microplastics that are coming from the Wickham board that, that are now starting to become a concern with the trash, but also what those numbers are looking like coming out of the waste plant too, to really understand how much is actually being put into the system via the pipes, via and waste as well. So there are some concerns that I know in Pinole have been kind of brewing as far as environmentally goes. So I definitely want to have a conversation once we get through the numbers and stuff as to other items that we've been looking at and what that means for our wastewater plant, because I know there's going to be more testing that costs money. There might need more equipment, and I could see our director of finance looking dead at me right now saying that, but just having an understanding and trying to be as far out in front of it as we possibly can, at least understanding those costs, maybe not necessarily trying to tackle them on this budget, but definitely planning for them so that we don't get blindsided later on. But yeah, just definitely, I mean, I know that there's a lot of wastewater conversations that I think we need to start having, and soon. I also know that there are grants out there and money that we need to put up to try to get more money. So let me go ahead and.
But thank you, Mr. Binder, too, for your presentation. If we can have staff work on that for our August meeting, that would be really helpful, just so that we could start, as a body talking about that sewer master plan, and then perhaps have conversations about next steps with that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Okay, so the next portion of the report is our monthly performance indicator definitions. So these are 4 constituents that we monitor the performance on, and that's carbonaceous, biochemical oxygen demand, total suspended solids, enterococcus, and ammonia. So these 4 items are what we include in our performance indicators, and you could read those definitions on your own. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'll read out the monthly performance indicators for the treatment plant for January, February, and March. And for January, we had CBOD with a 97% removal rate. TSS had a 96% removal rate. For February, CBOD, we had a 96% removal rate, and for TSS, we had a 97% removal rate. For March, for CBOD, we had a 95% removal rate, and for TSS, we had a 95% removal rate. And the other numbers on there, enterococcus and ammonia, those just show the average of those constituents in the effluent. So that's the effluent average column of those numbers that you see on the monthly performance indicators. And I'll answer any questions.
Quick question here. So thank you again. Can I ask you, what is the benchmark number here? Are we referring to the 100%, or are we on, below, above average, where we stand? What is that number? The absolute number doesn't give much insight to me.
Right. So if you look at the monthly effluent limit, so for example, for January for CBOD, you have a monthly effluent limit of 25. You have 314 milligrams per liter coming into the plant, and you have 10.63 milligrams per liter leaving the plant. And so that's kind of your comparison of what's coming in to what's going out.
So the max we could have is 25, but we have 10.63. Is that how we read it?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's the monthly effluent
So
limits
is that the average or acceptable number, or is that below? Or
it's considerably below, because our permit monthly effluent limit is 25, and we're discharging 10.63 milligrams per liter. So that would be considered good performance.
Okay. May I ask you one more question?
Sure.
How our surrounding or neighboring cities, or the idle city would have these numbers? I know 10 looks good to me, but I'm just trying to see where we stand, comparatively, if you will.
I would have to look up the data for other treatment plants to see. I mean, these numbers are something that I could probably look up or make a phone call to get. So, but I can get back to you on that.
So there's Richmond Sanitation, Rodeo is in the area, and then I think there's one with Central Sand,
West County.
West County,
Yeah.
okay, up the way. So they're basically along the strait, ending with Richmond's sewer plant. So I say that is that there has been talk about what it would look like to try to combine forces with those agencies. Rumors in here say though, from our region, but because we share congressman, it makes for an easier conversation with the larger package project. But familiarity with those plants is helpful for us as well. So.
Okay. Any other questions on the monthly performance indicators? Okay, next slide, please. So next we'll move on to project updates, and those updates will include blower replacement, nutrient probes installation, effluent outfall project, and the wastewater treatment plant operations and maintenance manual. So the first item on project updates is a blower replacement. So during this fiscal year, we had one blower fail, and the manufacturer is no longer producing parts for that part that failed. So we're in the process of replacing one of our 3 existing blowers. So this is just a picture. You can see the space where the third blower was that has now been removed. And we're actively working on getting that replaced, and it should be delivered to the treatment plant sometime in June or July. Next slide, please. The next project is nutrient probes installation. So just a little bit of background on this. The Water Board introduced stricter permit limits over the next 5 to 10 years, and all of the wastewater treatment plants in the Bay Area are going to be required to lower their nutrient discharges by 40%. So we're in the process of installing these nutrient probes in our aeration basins so that we can start gathering the necessary data to help us evaluate our nutrient load as it's moving through our aeration basins, so that we can have a plan in place to meet our removal rates as the permit limits become actionable. Next slide, please.
May I ask you a quick question here?
Sure.
What is the timeline for us to be, the compliant, nutrient probe compliant?
It's 10 years, but there's each year there's an actionable item that you have to meet
Okay.
as you're progressing to getting to that new removal rate.
I assume we are on track, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the last 2 projects we have updates on, I don't have a picture for any of these, but the effluent outfall project, we went out to bid for this project in summer of 2024, but there were no bidders. So we're kind of trying to regroup on that project. We may add some things regarding nutrients to try and make that project more attractive to design firms. And then the last item is the wastewater treatment plant operations and maintenance manual is in progress. That's something that we have to update periodically. And since we had our plant upgrade project, I'm slowly starting to upgrade each chapter, and I'm hoping to get that done in this calendar year. That's it for the presentation. If there's any questions on any of the project updates, I can answer those.
So how old was that blower? I know that we talked about that in the capital plan for a while, and there was a level of redundancy that I remember us having. So the plant is still running, it's just and that was for aeration, right?
Yeah, so the aeration is basically the heart of the treatment plant, providing biological treatment. And so, yes, we have 3 blowers. One of them is currently out of service and being replaced. And what was the rest of your question?
I guess we're on our last blower, and
Oh, you said
and
how
I-
old was it? That's
yeah,
right.
and how old are they? All the same make and model? So they all don't have parts, and I would imagine that you're Frankensteining one to repair the others. And we had that in the capital plan. I know for when we talked about it a year and a half ago, I want to say maybe even further. And it was one of the concerns I was worried about is that if your blowers go down, you basically can't treat waste.
Right.
How is that affecting the operations now? And I mean, where is the emergency button for that?
Yeah, so the age of the blowers, I believe they went online in 2017 or early 2018. So they're not that old. It's just the manufacturer errs, and they had a supplier, so I believe it might have been South Korea, and they're just not making those inverters anymore. It's an inverter problem.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we're not necessarily Frankensteining them at the moment because you'd have to get it recertified by UL,
Right.
and that's very tough to do on a product that, they're no longer making. So, yeah, it's particularly difficult. So the route that we had to go was to just replace it.
Okay.
Replace with a new?
Yes. Yes, a new manufacturer.
And hope they will continue. Anyways, good to know.
Okay. Any questions? Yeah, please.
I do. I just have one question. So for the effluent outfall project, it did go to bid last summer. Can you talk about the challenges of that bidding process and maybe why we didn't have bidders and what will change this time? Or what changes staff recommends this time for us to be more successful in that?
So we had a estimated design fee for that at $150,000, and we just thought that engineering firms are really busy right now. Like we talked about, these required nutrient removal upgrades. There's only so many engineering firms, doing wastewater work. So you have a small talent pool to provide you a service that everybody needs, all at the same time. So we think it's a combination of engineering firms being busy, and we anticipated the design fee at $150,000, and that could have been potentially a number that they were not interested in.
And then in terms of staff's recommendations, because it seems like we're going out, we met last year about this time, so it seems like we're probably going to go out to bid around the same time that we did last year. So I'm assuming energy cycles of those same companies may be similar. So what are staff recommendations for the procurement process or the bidding process this time?
I believe we talked about increasing the design
Yes.
fee.
Yes, we did increase the design fees, which is reflected in the CIP.
Okay. So we're increasing the design fee to, can you remind me the number?
The number we have listed here is 3.15 million, but that is a number that includes construction. So I'm trying to recall. Markeisha, do you have a number that we increase the design fee by for that project? Okay. We may have to get back to you on that number.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Chair. I just had a few follow-up questions. But
Well, I kind of want to add a little bit of clarity, I think the affluent outfall is the same as last year. So we said that, was it the Rodeo to move forward with the design work of 3 million? Does that sound about right? That was in the 24-25 budget.
The initial design number was 150,000,
Okay,
and then the anticipated construction was 3 million. So what's reflected here on the budget, 3.15 million, you know, it includes construction and the design. So I think we just combined those numbers for this budget year,
Gotcha.
got it. Okay. Thank you, sorry.
knowing that we wouldn't necessarily use all of that number. We're going to use an additional amount for the design fee.
And so that increase in design fee essentially allows for more engineering firms. You assume that that increase in fee will allow more engineering firms to be, I guess, more excited about work for this project.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Can I ask a question about the RFP process? Did you go, I guess, that was a public document that goes out to the RFP that hits the market?
Yes.
Did you look at some of the pre-bid contractors like, Bidwell, Omni Partners? There's all these different pre-bid contractors. Like I'm thinking of Southland. I'm thinking of all the large firms that could take on a project like that. And I know they might be more expensive, but at least we could fast track. I just feel like one blower, when there's supposed to be three, and we know that there's issues with them, that we might be running into a larger problem if the last one goes down.
I have the funding breakdown here for the design for this coming fiscal year. We're proposing 350,000 and partial construction of 250,000, and the contingency is 50,000. So we are going to adjust the scope itself, and we're allowing for additional funding for the design.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I'm assuming OpenGov, now that we're with OpenGov too, that may make it a bit easier to get more engineering firms as well. Would that be a good assumption to make, or does that really impact our ability to get there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will have a bigger reach.
Okay. Great.
Okay, seeing no more questions, comments, concerns. I guess we have to ask for any public comment for this item. Doesn't
No
seem like
comments.
there's no comments. Okay, so I think we could move on to the 25-26 item 6, fiscal year 25-26 budget. And it looks like we have the operating budget and capital budget that'll be discussed.
So just to give a brief overview of the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, and focusing more on the operations, I'll defer to Josh for any questions on the capital improvement plan. But from an operating perspective, not many changes from the current fiscal year. The staffing that is included in here has not changed from the last year. So it's a total of 11.48 full-time equivalents, and no changes there. So all of the salaries and benefits costs that you see here are for those staff that are listed in the attachment. It also at this point does not include any cost of living adjustments, so that could change. We're going into labor negotiations soon, so those numbers could shift a little bit depending on the results of the negotiations. And I can answer any other operating questions if you have any of those.
Any questions?
No questions, Chair. Thank you. And thank you, Director Guillory.
You're welcome.
Did have a question about the carry forwards. And that's just an item where those costs are just rolling into the next fiscal year from previous years?
Yes.
Okay. And then what is the current reserves? Well, I wouldn't say reserves, but I know that we've had a lot of money rolling over from
Fund
year to year.
balance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what's, just to have an understanding of the fund balance?
So as of today, I just ran some estimates for projections for the end of this current fiscal year, and we're looking at an estimated ending balance of 21.8 million.
Seems like a lot of money. Wow, okay.
Yeah, a lot of the projects have been carrying forward for several years, especially the high dollar projects.
Okay, I gotta ask a question. That seems like a lot of work that can get done for having three blowers down, or two blowers down, and one we're hoping doesn't go down. What's holding? I guess what are the challenges? Where other city departments I know in other cities would love to have $21 million, but it seems to me that we have issues with the plant and need to convert over pretty quickly.
So the 21.8 million, that's the current sewer enterprise fund, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So the sewer enterprise fund, that's just what Pinole has in its sewer enterprise fund that is available for sewer-related projects. So it's not saying that you can't get these projects done with that money. That's just the amount that we've built up in our sewer enterprise fund with the funds that come in each year from the ratepayers.
Okay. So how much of that is, I guess, when we take operating out, what's left over?
So that is the amount that has carried forward from the capital projects not being completed.
Okay.
If I may clarify that this is also dependent on the engineering team, and we've been having changes in staffing and some vacancies. With that being said, we're in the process now of staff replacement, and as you will see, we're planning a comprehensive CIP program for this coming fiscal year.
I see. Okay. Right. We've been without a CIP person for quite some time, and then that turnover. I got it. Is it possible to explore putting somebody specific to? I mean, that's a lot of capital projects specific to these projects, and just having somebody dedicated to getting a lot of these capital projects done. Or do we have the capacity to do that?
Well, currently, you have to consider also that the sewer enterprise fund covers the collection system as well. So any sewer project, such as the Pinion project that we're working on now, I believe that was approximately a $5 million project. And there's other ones to follow that will be drawing from the sewer enterprise fund.
I see.
So the bulk of that money is likely going to be spent on collection system projects.
I see. Okay. I'm wondering if some of that can be for staff dedicated strictly to moving those projects forward. Because it seems like we have a plant to run, right? And that has problems. And it would just seem like a lot for a superintendent of a plant to have to take on also the renovations of that plant as well, and where that support can come in. This is just my thoughts. I don't know how other members feel, but I feel like when we see that kind of money growing in the account, because that's something that's been growing over time, at least over the last 7 years, that we want to see that invested back in versus deferring the maintenance further. And it just seems like it's being deferred because of capacity, just not being able to get to the work. And then to hear that we had no bidders for a project, that's also kind of like, are we really in tune with where the market is, and how much things actually do cost, compounded with the fact that as costs are getting escalated as we speak, right? So I think it just seems like it might need somebody dedicated to that specifically, and something we could explore, I guess.
All of your points are well taken, and we are proposing an additional engineer. Part of this person's time would be for sewer-related projects. With that being said, the cost and the review of the budget, because it's shared between the cities of Hercules and Pinole. So this is something that you would discuss and guide us through it.
Got it.
I was just gonna say, to the To the added engineer, I'm not seeing that in the budget for 2025, 2026. I'm seeing,
This will actually be under the engineering division of Public Works.
of City of
So-
Pinole's Public Works.
Yes.
I think what I'm hearing the chair say or suggest is in this, on the FTE, which is 11.48 for 25, 26, perhaps there's a space there where we could use some of our budget, and I guess that's a staff question, is how much of that budget would be reasonable to implement someone that supports the capital improvement project side of things. I'm guessing, just being, a City of Pinole council member, that the added engineer capacity might be best for the number of projects that Pinole has, and then we have someone intentionally supporting our shared collective vision for the wastewater treatment plant. So, any thoughts on that or per that statement?
Yes, we have actually been discussing the potential of the added staffing, and we have a proposal that City Council will be reviewing, including the Finance Committee next week.
Okay.
Where the engineer would function, it will need to be out of the engineering division.
Okay.
But the position itself would be funded through the fees.
The fees, but I'm not seeing that represented in the budget. So how?
It's not there yet. So
Okay.
since we're still in the budget development phase for 2025, 26,
Okay.
as Director Habib mentioned, we are looking at the proposals for additional positions. And as she mentioned, the position wouldn't be 100% allocated to the treatment plant, but allocated to several different areas, but including this area as well.
Gotcha. And so we'll see, tonight's budget is essentially a recommendation from this committee, subcommittee, to both city councils. But what I'm hearing from you all is that the City of Pinole's budget process is going on.
Yes.
And then you all aren't seeking approval from this committee for that role particularly now?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
This is more informational.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Thank you.
I was just going to say too, and as staff is fully aware, and as we've been discussing with Josh, as the capital projects move forward, you have your enterprise fund, we have our enterprise fund. We're going through some fund adjustments in Hercules, so we've got to make sure that how much you can afford to spend doesn't outrun what we can afford to spend, so.
Right, and I guess, I don't know if this body is where that direction to try to figure out that goes, or do we just information, both committee members have an understanding and then take that back to an item at council? Just trying to see the process is to disclose that, and then I guess the city managers will figure that part out. But to me, it just seems like we have about $6 million of project carryover, along with another 500 to 600 coming in as new projects. That's a one person. I mean, you're going to need somebody dedicated to doing that type of work in order to move the projects forward. And the worst thing that could happen is somebody gets here, starts it, and then you have 6 months of trying to find somebody to replace it. I think that happened a couple times with Pinole, and have to restart these projects over and over again. We're losing money by doing that, so I'm just wondering if you guys can work together to figure out what that looks like.
Yes.
But the last thing we want to do is lose money from the start and stop, which seems like what we're doing now. But agreed, I understand that there's two separate funding, and we'll try to figure that part out. Okay, I don't have any more questions or comments, but anybody?
What is staff's recommendation for this item?
I believe it's to accept the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to ask if Josh was going to go over the capital side of it too.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I can go over the capital side of it. So the projects that are currently listed as capital items, some of them are carry forward, some of them are new. The water pollution control plant lab remodel is carry forward. The secondary clarifier center column is carry forward. The air release valve replacements, we did do 2 of those, but we have 2 more to do, so we're carrying that dollar amount forward. The effluent outfall project design, we talked about that. It's carry forward, but we're trying to add some money into that design fee to make it more attractive for bidders. The water pollution control plant solar and battery project is new. The blower replacement is new. And the Tennant Avenue rehabilitation is carry forward. So if some of those projects are going to put Hercules in any financial position that may overextend, then we can talk about those items that may either need to be pushed out or worked into the operations budget.
Yeah, the main thing is, as everyone knows, we're going through a sewer fee model program, and we've taken specific numbers and put into that, and those fees and those models are getting ready to come forward to our council to go out to the public and everything like that. The majority of these were part of that plan, but we've spoken with your staff a little bit about the $250,000 on the solar battery project, if that could be pushed out maybe a year or so, and if the blower replacement, since it was kind of unplanned, could become more part of the operations budget or something like that, would help Hercules keep our funding, our fee schedule moving forward in the way we need it to.
I see. So there's kind of a lag before the fees kick in?
It's not so much that, but we've had people working on a modeling program for our fees to figure out exactly where we need to do, and, excuse me, certain numbers have been put into that with a plan, working with your staff, and they're kind of already in place, and a couple of these are, as these new projects come up, they're not just part of it. And so, and we're right there getting ready to put that out, and so to make radical changes to it, it's not a good time.
I see. So is it more of, I guess, kind of walk us through, because I'm thinking if we're on our last blower, and I'm thinking like this might actually turn into a bigger problem. So I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to maybe defer the pay, like is it the payment, or I mean?
Well, that's actually what we were talking about, and like I
Yeah.
said, we've been talking with your staff already.
Okay.
And about, just not getting rid of necessarily the battery project, but pushing it out
Okay.
down the road a little bit. And there was also talk about the blower project basically being absorbed into the operations staff, so it not being such a capital issue.
Got it. Okay.
That's all.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you just pull it from a different pot, right? Got it. Okay.
Yeah, we're agreeable to that.
Okay. Okay. All right, any questions, comments?
Just a question. So the deferment of the solar battery is fine with me as well. When you're saying that's a new project, are you saying that's a new project? Because that was in our last year's budget. So are you referring to it as a new project in 2025, 2026? Or why is it called new?
It was a new project in that we had already submitted a 5-year CIP plan to Hercules. I believe that was a little over a year ago.
Okay.
And that was an item that was not included in that 5-year CIP project. In Pinole, it has been on our CIP list, but it was an item that was being pushed out into the future, but we were looking to move it up because it's a project that will offset our energy bill.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those things where you're going to make money from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were trying to move that up, but we understand with the circumstances that with Hercules, so we can push that out.
Okay. I just was wondering why it was considered new. So what I'm hearing is that maybe last year's budget was not communicated thoroughly to the city of Hercules.
It's just the 5-year CIP plan that we got in relation to the plant that we're working our model off of.
Okay.
It wasn't on that.
I
And
see.
and I appreciate Josh throwing that in so that I, jiggle the memory.
Gotcha.
The 5-year CIP program that we got from the plant is the one that we've given to our people to work up our sewer rate models.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
if we make a bunch of modifications to it, it's going
It's
to
gonna
skew the
change
model
rates.
all over the place.
That makes sense. Okay. So I know this is just I guess, an item on the agenda about the August meeting that is next. It seems like it may be worthwhile to have a meeting prior to August, pretty close to the approval of both cities' budgets, because otherwise we're going into a kind of a situation we ran into last year where essentially we're meeting a year later and some of these issues are coming, both of the funding issues are a thing, but then there seems to be a couple like operational just red flags, right, in terms of just the blower. So I guess I would just ask staff to maybe consider, or as a committee, maybe we can consider meeting closer to that June timeframe when those budget approvals happen, hopefully before June, to our city managers and directors. But again, I know that the timeframe is pretty straightforward. So perhaps we can consider that soon, maybe a June meeting or July.
Yeah, I think it's also helpful just so that we, with the new members, we kind of go over what the relationship is. I know it's a JPA kind of, and there's this, just try to understand the connection between and where the two cities meet with this plant, as well as the, renovation that we did. I think it was a $43 million project, plus the capital plan, and then really it feels like we're always doing this SWOT analysis without the strengths part, right? We're always going to, or the opportunities, right? And it's always like, what are the weaknesses and threats? And I think that especially with wastewater, with legislation coming down for the nutrient content, that's going to cost money, and it's going to be a 10-year cost. And we know that right now. And the last thing I feel, I want to do is put that on a future council to be in another, weakness and threats thing. And really, what are our opportunities and strengths here? I don't know if we have enough of that conversation at this level. And moreover, how much of that do we bring to our councils, outside of the emergencies that it seems like this board is always kind of bringing up. I'm wondering if we could have another meeting to start discussing how, looking forward and coming up with some type of game plan for this plant. I know our climate action plan had sea level rise in it. I had a lot of different things that are, maybe a generation out or maybe closer, I don't know. But just really, how are we having these discussions, and plus with both cities, it takes time to get on the agendas, takes time for everybody to understand the issue, and takes time to get direction, codified by both councils. So just trying to understand like what would be the cadence for this meeting. But certainly annually just seems like we're trying to, hash out a lot. And I'm not sure how much direction, you're getting from council. It just feels like it rolls into capital plan, and then we say yes, and then all these things happen. But there are real issues that you guys are dealing with that I know with the two council members we could advocate better for with our colleagues. So,
If I may also, Chair, I think that may not be a bad thing, because as you know by my introduction, I'm the interim Public Works Director. I realize Pinole's Public Works Director is newer, and we will be having our new Public Works Director fairly soon, and it may be good to be able to get that team together, but also giving them a little bit of time to understand things and figure things out and get back together and really have have those meaty discussions that it sounds like you're wanting staff to have. So just a point to think about.
So our next meeting is August. I think maybe budget-wise, we're going to be really hitting the budget around June, heavy. I'm wondering if we have something to just kind of, at very least, introduce, get the structure, some of the background stuff that we can have, because I would imagine the new Public Works Director is going to be coming on and having to do that work anyway, right? And so it might be a good forum for us to have that discussion up front and in this forum, and it'll also allow some of the newer council members kind of get, base, hey, this is our contract, this is how our MOU is set up, and these are the challenges, and we just kind of do that analysis of the plant. Nothing, I don't think direction's going to come out of that other than a discussion about staffing, but it would be more informational for everybody. Might be like a good first step, and then August really kind of jump into what are the policies that are coming out, how are we, looking 2 and 3 years out for some of the things coming down the line, and how much are they going to cost, more importantly, and whether we are even tooled up to do it. I know that we have a lot of sewer work coming up. We talked about road work. I'm not sure how much sewer work Hercules has as well, but I would imagine you guys have some coming. I think you have a development that's supposed to be coming out soon, which is going to add to those flows. Like, just having that understanding might be good to first baseline it and then start talking about some of the things coming up.
If you'd like, we can come back in June with general information about the master plan and the upgrades that took place at the plant, and going over to the budget with some updates based on the conversation today.
Okay. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, that works for me. Thank you.
Okay. We have item 7, new sewer connections. Assuming there's no public comment. No. No. Oh, okay, great. Thank you. I think you're our first public comment in a year.
Thank you. Am I on? Yes. Dante Hall, I'm the city manager of the city of Hercules. Thank you for having this meeting. We are, as Jeff mentioned, just finishing up our rate study, and we rely on the projections, the 5-year projections for capital projects. So thank you for providing that. It just so happens that these newer projects were not factored into our rate study, essentially. And so we definitely appreciate maybe stretching those costs out a little bit so that we don't have such a huge spike for our residents. And the other thing I would like to say is, yes, I think it's a good idea for us to meet sooner. We're going through our budget process. I understand, I feel your pain, how difficult it is to put a budget together, essentially. But we start our process like in March and April, essentially starting to put numbers together, have workshops. So the sooner, the better for us, essentially. And it'll give us the opportunity to have some technical kind of committees. We need to get our engineering departments together and talk through some of the capital projects, some of the operational costs for the treatment plant, and also finance, our financial people to kind of get in there and kind of understand the numbers. So as much time and process as we can get for that, I think the better for us. But thank you guys very much. Definitely appreciate it. And thanks.
Awesome.
I just confirmed with Josh, we have the capacity to come back in May if you'd like.
That seems fast. But I'm open to it. I think these meetings are great because I think we've only got an hour in-ish. We have another 5 minutes. We can keep these meetings pretty tight. Presentations was perfect, just as far as the cadence goes. And I think I'm a fan of having more meetings, but shorter, like considerably shorter, an hour maybe, if we can get there. I don't know how the other members might feel.
Oh, yeah. I think, it is helpful, just to get up to the speed, and especially when we have a new public works director is coming. So definitely, I'm open for that as well.
Okay.
But sometime when there is a doubt, more communication, over communication than under communication.
Yeah, and it could always be a very quick meeting that, hey, we have a couple items, and I can make that commitment too. 7 o'clock time, I think, is great for me. Just with the commute, rolled right out of soccer with the kids and rolled right into the meeting, so it worked out really well. I know for my schedule. Staff-wise, I know this is painful, we'll try to get you out early as much as possible. Councilmember Murphy, do you, any?
I'm down for the May or June timeline, given, of course, just the pieces of the budget that we got to put together. I think that with that meeting, we should name it. It would be great to just have like a week, a little, maybe 2 weeks of a notice when we do decide. And then I think what would be really helpful is just a meeting calendar, because I know we've traditionally had like four meetings per year for this subcommittee, and just helping out. I mean, I thought we were at 8:30 at some point. We used to have like 8:30 meetings, which I'm okay with, with having or not having, depending upon the day. But it would be great if staff can circle back with the information for the next meeting, maybe in May or June, and then also at that meeting maybe discussing the rest of the year's meeting cadence.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll try to put something on the calendar for May. Calendar invites for everyone. More planning, the better. I think for me, I know that's always helpful. I'd like to see this committee, just future-wise and future thinking is as soon as we get 2 and 3 years out, that helps us advocate, because as you guys know, government is slow, really slow. And the more advanced we know, especially with different policies. I know that our technical staff are on a few of those committees that are, or those conferences and stuff. The further out we can, hey, this is looking like it's heating up. I know that we have that cogen, or we talked about having cogen at the plant. I think it's still there, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's something that at the time everybody's, what are you guys spending that money for? But, when we walk right into it, it's actually a great idea now that we're moving into batteries and it's kind of growing. So the further out you guys can give us, the more we could advocate, try to get some dollars in the door if possible. So, okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Only one question is, since we are stressing the budget, is there any opportunity for us to, seek for the grants money or anything like that?
So in the wastewater world and water world in general, I know there's a lot. There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
It's just positioning the organization, and a lot of times, when you have small staff or low, not enough staff or low staffing, you miss the grant deadline. You can be working 6 months and then someone says, you ain't got it, right? Or you're not going to make it. And you're either putting in a partial and there's a very low chance of you getting it, or you don't put it in at all and don't go for it. So I think that's happened to us in the past, where staff had worked very hard on getting a grant and miss the deadline. Or, I mean, it happens. It's normal. You take a risk putting resources into that. But for water, yeah, I think absolutely. It's just, position. It's about positioning. And it's not easy.
Yeah, just to add to that, it is challenging to get grants when your projects are not off the ground yet. You're more likely to get the grant if you've already fully committed the money and you're already in the design and you're able to put in your grant application. Those are the ones who usually get awarded with the highest frequency, is if you're already, the more fully committed you are and deep into the design process, the more likely you are to receive the grant.
Shovel ready.
Shovel ready, yeah. No, it's a great question, though. I mean, there's stuff out there. We just have to, kind of come up with the vision for this plant, and then, get our colleagues on council to see that vision, public see that vision, and then kind of solidify that. But I guess this committee is just, trying to make sure that we're staying in front of it and supporting staff. So, okay. All right. With no other comments, questions, or concerns, we'll go ahead and move to item 8. Adjourn to the next regular subcommittee meeting. We'll say to be determined by staff sometime in May for some type of onboarding presentation. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go.